What we got?
Does it cut, dog?
Ooh. Yeah, that ain't no paper right there.
No, yeah, that was a gentle kiss from the AR. All right, so it's the monster back in black and gray, King of the North representing, and I got this beauty here, also in black and gray or black and silver. This is a prototype Bornu spear. It's based off of the cavalry lances that were used in the Empire of Bornu. Bornu is a very old empire. It still exists today as a group of people that are found in northern Nigeria and parts of Chad. But as an empire and a state, it started roughly around the early 10th century. That's when it was. I should say that's when it emerged as a state. It probably has origins a lot older before that. Very long history and very dominant, prominent powerhouse in the central Sahel. All right. Typically, these spears are a lot taller, so we would look at something like around about this tall. To be honest, this right here is perfect for this kind of getting a traditional spear and putting it in a I hate to use the word tactical sense, but like if somebody came in the house and had to deal with this right here, this would be a lot of trouble. You know what I'm saying? It is extremely quick. The blade is really sharp. The thrust, and I had a comment on the initial video saying like, yeah, the cut is great, but that thrust, yeah, this right here would be hell to deal with. So typically the blades, the shafts are pretty tall, at least like 6 to 7 feet long, if not longer. The blades, this blade here is about 18 inches long. There's a gentleman named Ian Norman, I believe he's in the Czech Republic. He has an example of this type of spear where the blade is actually the same length of a Takoba blade. So like you're looking at between 30 to 36 inches long.
God damn.
Yeah, it's a monster. It is a monster spear. And again, just talking about some of the attributes, because when we think about spears, we think about thrusting. But in all honesty, spears are extremely versatile. If you think about it, right? You can fight from foot. You can fight on horseback. You can fight in close quarters. You can fight in long range. You can throw them. You can make them shorter and fight like with swords. Like I said, close quarters. They can stab, they can pierce, you can smash with the butt, you can use the haft to hit, you can cut with some of them. And speaking of cutting, let's talk about specialized spears for cutting, aka partisans, right? So, partisans, cutting spears, hewing spears are not purely a European phenomenon. You'll find them in other cultures. Since African weapons, warfare, and martial arts is an understudied area, we're just now coming into a better understanding of what that looks like. So doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or didn't exist on the continent. It's just we're catching up to the knowledge right now. Okay, so this spear can definitely cut like a sword. It can also pierce and stab like normal spears can as well. So speaking of that, just kind of wanted to address kind of this tendency that we encounter. Especially when we're recreating and discovering and rediscovering and bringing these arts out. And I get the human brain, it's easy to kind of associate it with something that you recognize, right? But then it also becomes a tendency to take away the ingenuity and the creativity that these indigenous populations had amongst themselves before coming in contact with Europeans. So usually, when we talk about African martial arts and weapons, we don't even think about swords, right? We don't think that Africans fought with swords. We think about spears, right? And we don't even think about spears in the same sense that we think about spears in Europe and Asia, because, hey, most infantry use spears. Swords were very rare in many cases. Spears are most common. Spears win battles more so than swords, okay? We all know that across cultures, one of our earliest tools is a spear. But when you come into a place where people of African descent are using swords or sword-like implements, it's easy to dismiss that as being an indigenous creation, and it's seen more as something that they copied, borrowed, or learned from Europeans. So case in point, where we're talking about Colombian machete, Haitian machete, any of the machete systems that you find in the African diaspora, if it usually the way it works is the mindset is, oh, okay, in Haiti they fight with machetes. They put their hand behind their back when they're doing this. That looks like fencing to me. So they must have learned French saber and combined it with African stick fighting to make Haitian machete, right? Or they go to Colombia, like, okay, yeah, they got their hands back like this, and they have these really interesting postures and stuff. It must be destreza, it must be Spanish fencing or whatnot. They must have combined Spanish fencing with African stick fighting to make, you know, escrima con machete. You know what I'm saying? And what we're learning is these cultures that came to this part of the world, they were already fighting with short, slashing, cutting, cleaving weapons before they came over. And that was, not to say there's not any influence or interaction between cultures, but to default to that and say, just to dismiss, you know, that whole process, I find it dismissive. You know, to call this an Africanized partisan is dismissive. You know, it is what it is. It's a Bornu, it's a spear that's used by Bornu cavalry. It's used for cutting, it's used for stabbing. That's what it is. It's not this thing that exists only because the partisan exists. No, it exists of its own, by itself. And that goes for anything else.
This is the oldest documented continent on the planet. No?
Was that?
Africa?
Is the oldest continent? Oldest
documented as far as documentation goes?
Well, I mean, that's where we all come from. So
okay.
I guess this is the beginning of our story.
So if it's the motherland for all, then, you know, we had to assume that some of this shit was already there before.
Yeah, I almost cut my hand again. Yeah, well, I mean, true. I think the thing is that whether it's the first, oldest, or if it's just brand new, we can't just assume that, we can't just take away the local ingenuity of the people. You know what I'm saying? We can't do that. We can look at the comparisons and say, oh, that's interesting, but to make sweeping statements like that, I think it's just dismissive, and it's, you know, it's just leads you down the path of being intelligent but ignorant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to the troll,
any
or if you weren't trolling, let us know in the comments why every time we post an African weapon, you gotta add some type of European, you know, type comment to it. I mean, which is fine if that's how you looking at it. That's fine, but you know, anyway, to you, if you're not a troll, dismiss what I'm saying, like you dismiss the other stuff. But yeah, we gave you what you wanted. We acknowledge you. We're not gonna say your name. They can go back and find that for themselves in many videos. But you know, to all comers that are coming here with that, you know, this is the first and the last time we're gonna address that in this way.
Yes, since we're here, and hopefully I got enough time and it won't die out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
8 minutes.
Let's talk about shields.
All right.
Okay. So, what I'm doing here, what we're doing here is we're documenting our progress, right? So you're kind of getting a bird's eye view into our process and progress, right? I never profess to know everything and to be the gatekeeper of all knowledge, especially when it comes to African martial arts and weapons and stuff. There's still lots for me to learn. Personally, I see a lot of stuff on YouTube that either I like or I dislike or I don't have any opinions on, and I just move on, right? Never feel the need to try to address someone doing something. That's their thing. They're brave enough to put videos up. I applaud them to be able to do that. If you guys have any criticism or comments about like what I'm doing, like the comments are open for you to talk and discuss, and I won't take any comments down, provided that they're not like, you know, racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever else. If they're, you know, even if they're criticizing what I'm doing, that's perfectly fine. But I'm saying for me, you'll get more of a response from me if you reach out to me directly. Like there was a gentleman that was asking about the Beja shield and sword, and I don't have time to write the comments, to respond to every question, but you can send me an email at austinwarriorarts@gmail.com if you want to talk more directly about what my sources are, or if you want to make a suggestion on what I should cover in another video to help clear up any mystery or any questions you might have. But I just, sometimes it comes off, I can't tell context from the text sometimes, so I can't tell if I'm being trolled, if there's something else a person is saying, or if they just have a legitimate question. So if I'm making a mistake, my bad. Reach out to me in email if you have time. It's austinwarriorarts@gmail.com.
All right. Street Forge Armory, Bornu spear prototype, paper phenolic shaft, thin AR 500. The next step up will be 1095 steel.
Wider blade.
Well, it'll be 1095 steel with a hickory shaft.
Ooh.
And then we'll widen the blade. Somebody asked if this was for sale. Everything's for sale until
here.
it's not.
Come over here. Real fast. Real fast. Real fast. Where you at? Real fast. Watch that one.
Does it cut, Doug? And we out.